So let's begin with this practice this morning. And in this practice, we will be investigating our relationship to our assumptions, opinions, and beliefs. And we will be looking at that relationship from the perspective of how we relate to our assumptions, opinions, and beliefs, and how that relationship can influence our sense of space, our sense of freedom and being able to choose in life. So let's begin by simply bringing to mind a strongly held, hard-earned assumption that you hold about the world, or opinion, or belief. One that you hold pretty strongly, and you've made some effort to formulate this opinion, belief, assumption over time. It's important to you. It's been a useful guide for you in your life. And now recalling a recent experience in which you were either explaining this assumption, opinion, or belief, or you were advocating for it. You were explaining it to somebody else. You were explaining it more thoroughly to yourself. You were advocating for this position with somebody else. And recalling the specifics. Who was present? Where were you? What was happening? Replaying the video in your mind. And as you're replaying this video, noticing what thoughts and especially emotions and sensations are coming to mind for you. Simply being an observer of them. And now expanding your awareness, your attention a bit more to consider what has been the source in your life of this particular assumption, opinion, or belief. Did it arise from people you respect? Or perhaps in part from your own study and investigation? Or simply from your conditioning and experiences? There's no should or ought about this. It's just your experience. It's what's happening for you. And now let's look more closely at your relationship to this assumption, opinion, or belief. And one of the ways to calibrate your relationship is to sense into your urge to defend this position. How quick are you to defend this position? How defensive can you feel about it? How defensive we are, how quick we are to defend it, is an indicator for us of how attached we are to it. or whether we hold it fairly lightly. And we can hold something that's important to us, either with a lot of attachment, or we can hold it lightly. They're both options. So now, considering the consequences of how attached we are to this position. Are we on a continuum where we're very attached, or are we on a continuum where we hold it lightly? Sometimes when we hold things with a lot of attachment, things that we're quick to defend, it can make us feel constricted. It can invoke worry in us, maybe even a little fear. On the other hand, when we hold it more lightly, there can be a sense of space, a sense of possibility. Possibility for learning, for evolving our own understanding of the world, gaining in wisdom. And in the space, there may be more room for relationships, connecting, belonging. Just observing for a few more moments what all of this cognitive activity is about, what's happening with you. And now taking a couple of deep in breaths, followed by long, slow out breaths, and letting go of all of this cognitive activity and the likely extra energy or tension that typically accompanies cognitive activity. Grounding yourself in the space you're in. Settling into a more meditative experience. And turning your attention to your breath. Being an observer of your breathing process. The flow of air, the expanding and contracting of the chest and belly. Just resting with your breathing. And whenever your attention wanders off with a thought, especially one from this previous experience, simply be aware of it and gently come back to your breathing. All of this investigation this morning is within this basic mindfulness framework, which is life is hard. It's unquestionably hard. And we all know what that's about. The question is, do we make it harder? Our tendency as human beings is to take whatever is hard and make it harder. So often, our basic capacities for approaching that which is of benefit, avoiding that which is harmful, degrade into grasping, fear, ignorance. And that's when we end up in this place of being attached and making life harder. And when we are attached, it is going against the grain of how the world is, the realities of impermanence, and the realities of these four conditions that shape our lives that are beyond our control, beyond our control. And when we get caught in this clash, this unpleasant interaction between attachment and reality, that's when the suffering occurs. That's the source of this observation that has a little bit of a smart aleck quality to it, but is pretty real. In life, pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. So it's the ways that we make life harder that we're describing as the suffering. We can't escape the difficulties. We all get old. We all get sick. We all die, as does everybody around us. And we have much less control over our lives than we think we do. So there we are. And the more tightly we attach to any given aspect of our lives, whether it's our assumptions, opinions, and beliefs, or to another person, or to our expectations, the less space we have, the fewer choices we have, the less freedom we have, and the more likely we are to suffer. So by understanding our relationship to these opinions and beliefs, we can then give ourselves more opportunity for space, for choice, for freedom.